thank you so much for joining me. It is a real pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you about not only what's going on around the country and how it's impacting Baltimore, but in the midst of this mayor's race, how you want to not only serve, because I've heard you say very clearly that you want to serve this entire city, but there's a considerable number of African Americans who don't know you very well, would love to get to know you better. And my hope is that some of these questions speak to some of their concerns, clearly not all of them, but some that can help them get a sense of who you are, how you want to lead, what you want to do, what your priority is, and how you are interested in serving them.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great to have the chance to talk to you. And obviously we are in uncharted waters here. This coronavirus pandemic has changed a lot of things for all of us. And we need to conduct our mayoral race differently at the same time and be very sensitive to the issues that are afflicting this city.
Well, and can you start there? I mean, the reality is that this is like no mayor's race we've ever seen before. No longer are you able to do traditional door knocking, and you're not able to do rallies and events where you're literally shaking hands. What are some of the insights that you have gathered in this shifting kind of not only campaign reality, but global reality?
Yeah. So I think people's attention right now is really focused on the healthcare crisis and the economic fallout from that. And I think we have to be sensitive to that in our campaigning. We have obviously moved to a virtual campaign. We're not out there meeting and greeting and touching people, nor should we be. We're following all of the medical directives that are given to us and making sure we restate them in every setting. But I think it has changed the election in the sense that the usual issues have been supplanted by this global crisis. And I think that we need to think a lot bigger here, because Baltimore is going to be weakened by this. This virus is taking a human toll, but also a huge economic toll on the city. And it brings to the fore questions about recovery and leadership and putting this city back on its feet when we get through this difficult period. So our messaging has really changed to sort of encompass that and to talk about the experience that I have as a candidate working through crises, leading big programs and communicating with people in ways that are different.
Well, and you talked about leadership, and I don't think there's any question that whether people are looking at what's happening in DC, in the White House and Congress, or whether they're looking at the multitude of governors that are attempting to navigate this, clearly municipalities have had to bear the brunt of some really important decision making. Has Baltimore done the right things in response to this pandemic? And if not, what are one or two of the things that you think the city should have done differently in the early days of recognizing how serious of an impact this was going to have on its citizens?
Well, I think as a city, we have underinvested in emergency management and crisis management, and particularly in our Department of Public Health. So I think we came into this with fewer resources and capabilities to respond quickly. I think that the city has been relying largely on the governor to deliver the messages about, medical directives, social distancing, and the way we need to protect ourselves. I think the city is scrambling to work with the most vulnerable populations, as they should. Homeless citizens in Baltimore, people in communities without good access to transportation, to healthcare, to internet access, to get the message out. I think a mayor is required to communicate relentlessly with the population, to give them the information that they need, to communicate the severity of the situation, but also to give them constructive support, to let them know the city's in their corner, we're going to take care of you, but we want you to take the steps you need to take. So I guess I would say that the city has been scrambling to put in place the resources we need to respond, and it probably was unprepared in terms of the communication apparatus needed to get the message out. You need to find the trusted leaders across the city who can deploy your message and make sure that everybody knows what they need to know.
So, and I'd love for you to dig a little deeper, because I think you mentioned that, listen, the reality of the economic and social implications of this moment are going to more negatively impact already insecure communities. What should the city be doing right now beyond quarantine to reduce the possibility of new infections?
Well, I applaud all of the legislators who've been calling for more data and information about the racial impact of the coronavirus, because we are now getting that evidence that it is falling more heavily on the African American community. I think the city should be pushing for testing centers across the city in the most vulnerable communities. We're still not where we need to be in terms of testing for this virus, and we need to make that as accessible as possible to the communities that are most at risk. So I would say that first and foremost. I think that community outreach here is also critically important. I just said that we need to reach the leaders in communities that can deploy the message most effectively in ways that are most accepted by communities. So that's another thing that I think the city should be doing. But the economic toll of this is tremendous. One of the things I've been pushing for is for the city to use its local resources more quickly to bridge this period before federal dollars will trickle down to the local level. Most small businesses can't even survive a month without income. This is really going to be hard on Main Street, Baltimore. And I've seen other cities step up more quickly to put economic resources make them available for.
And what might that look like? If there's other cities that you think are getting it right, what does that look like?
It could look like a short-term loan program, bridge loans to small businesses to help them cover payroll, rent, essential expenditures, to cover maybe a 3-month period to come out the other side on their feet. There are programs at the state level and at the federal level, but they are heavily oversubscribed now. And I think what Baltimore could do is step up using some of its own rainy day funds, its own reserves, to put some assistance out there that they will be repaid for when the federal aid arrives. But we are racing against time. That's what I say. Because if you don't do it quickly, time isn't on your side with this. A month, 2 months out, next fall, that's too late. We really need to be responding more quickly. And I've seen other cities do this. So that's what I think would be helpful right now.
Well, and you talked about this communication piece and the ability to be talking with a level of consistency to citizens, to stakeholders, to those that are going to ensure the difference in this city one way or another. How would you do that in this moment in a way that you're not currently seeing?
Yeah. So I would have a daily press conference and update people with the facts, be honest about what the challenges are, what you know and what you don't know, but also give them the information that can help them find resources. So I think a daily briefing that would say, here's what's happening, here's where you can go, whether it is, addressing food shortages, whether it's addressing healthcare access, whether it's just giving people facts about transportation and where they can go to get help. I think that would be helpful right here. We're getting a lot of information from the federal and the state level, but I think things that are unique to Baltimore, that are unique to this city. And I am so impressed by the way people are stepping up here to help and to volunteer, and some of the nonprofits that are doing extraordinary things. We should make sure everybody's aware of the resources that are available to them.